People laugh at what you say. They include you, they remember your name, they would probably call you a friend. And you still leave every room feeling like no one actually saw you. Not the version of you that was really there. You don't know if that person has ever been in the room at all. Problem deep dive. You've learned to be good in rooms. You know how to read the energy, match the tone, say the thing that makes people feel at ease. You are likable, maybe even magnetic. And it costs you something every time. Because what they're responding to, what they're enjoying, connecting with, remembering, is the performance, the edited version, the one that knows which parts to show and which parts would clear the room. So when they say they like you, something inside quietly registers. They like who they think I am. Psychologists call this self-concealment, the active hiding of personal information perceived as distressing or stigmatizing. Research by Jonathan Larson and Anita Kelly found that chronic self-concealment is strongly associated with anxiety, loneliness, and a particular kind of invisible suffering, the suffering of being surrounded by warmth that can't reach you because you won't let it find the real surface. But beneath self-concealment lives something older. A belief, formed early and rarely examined. If they knew the whole of me, they would leave. That belief is not the truth. It is an old weather forecast you forgot to stop reading. Reframe. You did not become invisible on purpose. Somewhere in a family where emotions were managed rather than expressed, or in a social world where the real you was met with confusion or dismissal, you learned that visibility was dangerous, that being truly seen invited judgment, correction, or worse, the particular cruelty of being seen and found wanting. So you built a self that was safer to show, warm, capable, adaptable, a self that people would find easy to like. Psychologist D.W. Winnicott called this the false self, a socially functional identity constructed as a defense against a world that felt unsafe for the true self to inhabit. The false self is not fake. It is not dishonest. It is protective. It was the intelligent response to an environment that asked more of you than it was willing to give back. The problem is not that you built it. The problem is that you forgot there was something underneath it worth protecting. Psychological mechanism. Let's go into the architecture of this. Your brain contains overlapping systems for social engagement and threat detection. In early life, if authentic self-expression was met with withdrawal, criticism, or emotional unavailability, your anterior cingulate cortex, the region that processes social pain, learned to associate genuine exposure with something close to physical danger. So the brain built a compensation. Perform the self that gets approval, suppress the self that might not. Neuroscientists call the ongoing suppression of authentic emotion affective masking, and research shows it comes at a cost. Suppression doesn't reduce the emotion. It increases physiological arousal while decreasing felt connection. You expend more energy to feel less. The warmth in the room reaches your surface, and the signal stops there, because the deeper layer that could actually receive it has learned to stay sealed. Psychologist James Pennebaker's decades of research on disclosure and health found something striking. The act of concealing important parts of the self activates the body's stress response systems, not acutely, like a sudden fright, but chronically. A low, constant hum of vigilance, the cost of maintenance, the cost of being liked without being known. Practical framework. 5 principles, not a formula, a direction. 1. Distinguish between privacy and concealment. Privacy is a healthy choice, the right to decide what you share and when. Concealment is different. It is hiding something not because it's private, but because you believe it would make you unacceptable. Begin to notice which one you are practicing. When you hold something back, ask honestly, am I protecting this, or am I protecting them from having to know me? The answer will tell you something. 2. Offer one real thing per conversation. You don't need to disclose everything. You don't need to perform vulnerability like a second kind of performance. But in one conversation with someone who has earned some trust, offer one thing that is actually true. One opinion you'd normally soften. One feeling you'd normally redirect. One part of the real view. Social psychologist Arthur Aron's research on interpersonal closeness found that connection is not built through time alone. It is built through progressive self-disclosure, the gradual reciprocal sharing of increasingly personal truth. You cannot be known without being seen. You cannot be seen without showing. 3. Tolerate the discomfort of being received. When someone responds warmly to something real you've shared, and the instinct arrives to deflect it, minimize it, redirect it, pause there. Let the warmth exist without immediately dispersing it. This is distress tolerance in practice. Not eliminating the discomfort of being seen, but learning to remain present inside it long enough for the nervous system to learn. I showed something real, nothing collapsed. 4. Grieve the performances that worked too well. Some of the masks you wear have been so successful that people have built relationships with them. This is genuinely painful. You may need to quietly acknowledge that some of what you've received, the approval, the belonging, the warmth, was earned by a version of you that was only partially true. That grief is real. It is also not the end of the story. It is the beginning of asking, what would it feel like to be liked for the rest of it? 5. Practice being seen in low-stakes moments first. Research on graduated exposure, the psychological method of approaching feared situations in increasing order of intensity, applies here too. You do not need to reveal your deepest truth in your most important relationship first. Start with something small, a preference, a real reaction, an honest answer instead of a smooth one. Let the nervous system collect evidence that visibility and loss are not the same event. Build the file slowly. The brain will update its forecast when the evidence outweighs the fear. Integration. Here is the model. Think of yourself as a palimpsest, a page written over many times. The deepest layer is the truest one. The layers above it, the competence, the likability, the ease, they are not false. They are real. They're also not complete. What you have been doing is handing people the upper pages and calling it the whole book. What you are learning, slowly, imperfectly, in small moments, is how to show someone a deeper layer. Not all of them, not all at once, but enough that when they say they like you, something in you can finally, quietly, agree. Quiet, empowering close. You are not invisible. You have made yourself hard to find. There is a difference. The first is something done to you. The second is something you learned to do, carefully, reasonably, in a time when it made sense to disappear a little. But that time is not now. And the people in your life, the ones you have decided slowly to trust, they are not waiting for the edited version. They are waiting, without knowing it, for the rest of the sentence you keep stopping yourself from finishing. You are worth being seen, Not eventually. Not once you've cleaned yourself up a little. Now, as you are, underneath all of it.